What's up, Star Wars fans? Today I want to talk about Chapter 23 of The Mandalorian. That's right, we're going to preview Episode 7 of The Mandalorian Season 3. And we don't have an episode description, title, or even hints from the trailer to go on for this episode, but we do know the general direction of Chapter 23 thanks to the ending of Chapter 22. Thanks to the selflessness of Din Djarin, Bo-Katan is now in possession of the Darksaber. And Bo-Katan defeated Axe Wolves for leadership over this clan of Mandalorians, and so Bo-Katan is no doubt going to unite this clan of Mandalorians with the Children of the Watch on Navarro, giving them a substantial amount of Mandalorians, hopefully enough to take back Mandalore. The only question is who do they have to defeat to take back Mandalore? And I think looking back to Season 1 and 2 as well as Chapter 21 is going to give us that answer, which of course is Moff Gideon and the Imperial Remnant. Remember, we learned about Moff Gideon's escape at the end of Chapter 21, and Moff Gideon was mostly captured thanks to Mandalorians, Bo-Katan, and Din Djarin. So at the very least, Gideon is going to seek revenge on those two, but even if we go back further to Season 1 and 2, we know that Moff Gideon has a thing for Mandalore and Mandalorians in general. We saw in Season 1 and 2 that he takes a certain amount of pride in the destruction of their home world of Mandalore and the scattering of the Mandalorians. So it's pretty obvious that we're headed into a conflict between the Mandalorians and the Imperial Remnant, but the question is, will we see that in Chapter 23? And the answer to that, I think, is no. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this is going to be a great episode. It's going to set up that final conflict between the Mandalorians and the Imperial Remnant. I think there's going to be some very big reveals during this episode, but ultimately, I think the season finale, Chapter 24 of The Mandalorian Season 3, well, that's where we're going to get that major conflict. So what then is going to make up the bulk of Chapter 23? I mean, certainly this could be a shorter episode leading into a much longer climactic event in Chapter 24. So that said, it would make sense that Bo-Katan and Din Djarin reach out to their old friend Boba Fett. Or at least Boba Fett is an old friend of Din Djarin. Wouldn't it be interesting if we got little Grogu and Din on an adventure to Tatooine? As I've been saying during my reviews and previews for the last couple episodes, it doesn't seem like we've gotten a lot of connection between those two characters, so it'd be awesome to see it here leading up to the climactic fight in Chapter 24. And of course, during this bonding time between Din Djarin and Grogu, there would also be the ultimate goal of getting Boba Fett to join the Mandalorians and taking back Mandalore. It certainly doesn't seem like Boba Fett would want to leave Mos Eisley, as some other gangster or warlord might try and move in and take over the town. Of course, if he leaves behind Fennec Shan and Black Carthanton, as well as some of his other thugs, I'm sure his rule over the city would be pretty secure. And just think of the fleet of ships taking back Mandalore. Wouldn't it just be awesome to see Slave One as part of that fleet? Not to mention, it would be fabulous to see Boba Fett destroying stormtroopers once again, just like we got to see back in Season 2, and a little more of Boba Fett in Din Djarin action, like we saw in the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett. Again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. I think all of that action is going to happen in Chapter 24, but in Chapter 23, I think there's a real possibility that they're going to be recruiting Boba. And of course, I am forgetting one thing, and that is with the unification of all these different Mandalorian peoples, there's no doubt going to be some conflict, which is honestly something else in this episode that I'm looking forward to. I mean, it's just going to be so awesome to see so many different Mandalorians in live action, and even though, like I said, I think this is going to be a setup episode leading into all the action in Chapter 24, it's still going to be a lot of fun. But hey, Star Wars fans, let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I'm Mike, and remember, the Force will be with you always.